Thanks, Pam. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this session of the HPP series. I am Adam Campbell, VP of Patient Safety and Quality for Erlanger Health. Today, we're going to talk about how we make decisions within the organization and use data to do so. We'll be talking about strategic planning. We'll be talking about quality, safety, and service excellence metrics and how we decide on those, how we monitor that data, and make decisions on it as well. So within the system, as we know, we are accredited by DNV, and they are a deemed service of the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And to that point, we need to have a lot of data-driven decision points within the organization, not only around quality improvement or patient safety or patient experience, but also things like infection prevention and control, occupational health, which includes staff safety, employee safety, and workplace violence, and things like finance and budgeting, facility planning, technology and capital budgeting, and many, many more. As a preface, the strategic planning process for Erlanger Health really is on a fiscal year basis. So the fiscal year starts in July. So the strategic planning process really, as we do it, is a year-long process. We monitor different data. We monitor strategic objectives across the pillars in the organization. And we look at where the high-risk opportunities are for improvement on a year-to-year basis for strategic planning. All of the data that I will be showing today is available online. If you go to the intranet, on the top left there, you'll see quality, safety, and service. When you click on that link, it'll open up a subpage. There you'll find all the quality metrics, all the key metrics, safety metrics for each campus. So you can click into that and see scorecards with the latest and greatest data. Please take these, print them out, post them on the units, post them in break rooms, post them anywhere you need to put them. We need transparency on this. And that's when data starts working well, especially around quality improvement on the unit level. Also on the left, there are presentations from the Quality Oversight Committee, which is our quality showcase. First Thursday of every month, we have 2 or 3 presentations that shows current quality initiatives and the progress that everyone's making. A big sort of a group that we're part of is a safety oversight group. It's a national safety oversight group you may have heard of called Leapfrog. Twice a year, we get assigned a letter grade, ABCDF, from Leapfrog. There's a lot of data and things that underpin these grades. Infection prevention measures, mortality, length of stays, patient experience. So a lot of the things you see in the data that I'll be showing go into the evaluation of our current performance by Leapfrog. Traditionally, Erlanger has been in the C range. We even had a D at East back in the fall of 21, but we are now a strong B and actually tiptoeing up to the A level, which is good for many fronts around patient care and around marketing and around how we are viewed within the community. Part of Leapfrog are what we would think of as some very simple things. One of those is hand hygiene, and the infection prevention and control team actually go out and do observations, secret shopper style, don't be alarmed, but we look at is hand hygiene being performed going in and out of the rooms, in and out of care spaces and curtains and things like that. What you see here is for Leapfrog, they recommend us getting about 100 observations per quarter, about 30, 33 a month for each unit. We're making a very big push to make this happen. As observations go up, compliance to hand hygiene technique goes up as well. So, of course, that's the basis for good infection prevention. So that's one piece of data that we monitor on the observation side that's linked to leapfrog and infection prevention and control. I mentioned earlier the corporate objectives. These are the main strategic objectives for quality, safety, and service for the organization. These are determined leading up to each fiscal year rotation. These are the ones for fiscal year 23. So this is ending this month, actually. And the FY24 metrics, which would start being monitored in July, are in the final stages of being determined. There's always going to be a patient experience metric. There's always going to be some safety metrics and some basic length of stay type things in there. And you see, we set threshold, target, and stretch goals for each of the metrics each year. Yellow means we're meeting the threshold, green target, and blue we're above stretch. So we're looking good, meeting threshold or above in each of the strategic corporate objectives for quality and safety. Part of that, as I mentioned, part of the leapfrog process and the data that goes into leapfrog and the data that goes into the corporate objectives is around HCAHPS. Many of you have probably heard about HCAHPS. HCAHPS are patient satisfaction metrics that are determined by CMS. These go out to all of our Medicare patients that receive care in the hospital. And these are broken down into several domains, okay? Recommending the hospital, what's your likelihood to recommend, the percentile or the percentage that rate us a 9 or a 10 on a 10-point scale. And then there's other domains like communication with nurses, staff responsiveness, communication with doctors, cleanliness, quietness, on and on. So we monitor this on a monthly or more frequent basis. And you can see in black, those were our percentile ranks last spring. This spring is in green. And you can see in each of the domains, we have increased our percentile rank in each of the HCAHPS areas. So a lot of work goes into that. This is the system level. This is for Baroness specifically. So you can see on the left, there's a rate 9 or 10. That's called top box if you get a 9 or 10 out of 10. We were in the 8th percentile. This spring, the 3-month snapshot shows we're in the 22nd percentile. As the new 3-month snapshot as a system, we're up to the 41st percentile for that snapshot. So you can see the increase as we monitor this very closely, and that drives our strategy. That drives the quality improvement projects that we do within the system. And we also look at this at East. We look at it at Bledsoe, all of our facilities. And we see some ceiling effect at East because they've been doing some things rather well for a good while. Communication with docs, we're in the 96th percentile at East. So we see very good performance. And this is against national benchmarks. So a lot to be proud of here. Again, this is a set of data that we use to drive change and improvement around patient experience and service excellence. We also create what are known as heat maps. This is the easiest way to find where you need to put your resources for quality improvement. Okay, these are 6-month snapshots of performance by unit. On the left, you will see the units. Okay, we break down the major units at Baroness, East, and we also do Western Carolina in this setup. So you see somewhere like Central Wing, West Wing 6, and our friends in Ortho are consistently across the board in each domain or in the 90th or higher percentile rank. So very good performance. And then you see Baroness ED, first percentile. So that you know there's a lot of things working against patient experience when you're in the ED, okay? But this, again, is comparative. So where are we going to put our resources for patient experience? Pretty obvious. Another thing we've began to couple with this is on the right. This is the percent of patients answering yes to the questions, did a nurse round on you hourly? Did you participate in bedside shift report by nursing? And was there evident nursing leader rounding? We have found distinct correlations as these types of rounding increases, and there's a lot of work between nursing and physicians to make this happen, up goes patient experience. Okay, high correlations between those. So we're working a lot on nurse rounding on a lot of the units, knowing this correlation. So that's another instance of where we use data to drive our decisions on where we put our resources and where we need to improve. We also do this for non-HCAHPS areas. This is for all patients that receive care through Erlanger, not just our Medicare populations like HCAHPS. This gets into ambulatory surgery areas. This gets into radiology, children's, which of course doesn't have heavy Medicare populations. But here we see on the bottom left, we see our children's patient experience numbers. And on the right are a lot of our sort of clinics, okay, sleep, neuro, on and on and on. So we monitor those as well. It's not just HCAHPS. Pretty much everybody that receives care at an Erlanger facility gets a survey, an electronic survey. We also do this for the physician practices. So EMG, we look at all the practices across that scope of the business and of the services. And you see we do the same thing across these using the heat maps. So a lot of good information we monitor on a regular basis to make decisions on where to put resources. And finally, we do a special heat map for Sodexo. This is around cleanliness, food, the courtesy of the people cleaning the room. So we work very closely with Sodexo in this regard. Keep in mind that this is all perception by the patient and or the family in the case of children's. So the caregiver is going to be filling out the survey. So when you look at things like cleanliness, it may not actually be the cleanliness of the room, okay? That's why we have to dig into things like comments, okay? We have AI tools that we use to mine key themes in survey comments. It's called Narrative DX. It's a Press Ganey tool that we just started using. So we have to get at sort of the narrative of why they think cleanliness was not up to speed in their care space. And oftentimes it's not the room. All right. It's actually the courtesy of the person emptying trash or on and on and on. So it's a lot of things where we really have to dig into those perceptual issues. So we do this, and we work very closely with Sodexo on these. We've actually seen across the top there, that's the total percentile rank. Overall, we've seen some good headwinds there. The cleanliness HCAHPS question, we're up to the 21st percentile. That used to be 6. Okay, so we're seeing multipliers of percentile ranks here over the last year or so. To further improve, we're working with the units, and we're using what's known as the quadrant report approach. Okay, we work with Press Ganey, who is our vendor for the patient satisfaction surveys. And we put units into one of these 4 quadrants, okay? And current performance is looked at, as is, are you improving or are you stagnant in your improvement, okay? So if you're below goal and you're declining or stagnant, that's the red bottom quadrant, the bottom left, which would be a focus support area. So again, we're making decisions on where we put our energies around quality improvement. We're risk prioritizing. Right? So of course we want to focus on those units that are declining and are below goal. Those that are above goal and are still improving or are stagnant, but they're above goal, we challenge and recognize those units. Okay, so we have different strategies for different tiers of the units based on where they are in their patient experience journey. All right, so that's patient experience and how we use a lot of our patient experience data in brief. We also do this for hospital-acquired conditions, harm. Of course, we want the overall goal will never waver off of 0 harm. Okay. You may say to yourself, well, we'll never get central line associated bloodstream infections down to 0 and never have one again. Well, that's probably true. But you know what? We have to have the overall goal of 0 to do this. And this is where the system-wide harm event scorecard comes in. This is updated monthly, where we look at the frequency of each of the hospital-acquired conditions within the scorecard. This, of course, drives how we determine where we need initiatives. So, for example, in 2021 and early 2022, we had an increase in catheter-associated UTIs. Okay, didn't have a lot. The max we had in any given month was 3. Okay, but we wanted to drive that down to 0. We thought we had a good opportunity to do that. So we went through project management and quality improvement methodologies and really hit it head on. So we had a successful initiative around that. Between 2022 and 2023, to date, we've had a 48% reduction in CAUTIs across the system. Okay, we've seen similar gains in other areas, like surgical site infections in some areas, like CABG and so forth. And we're jumpstarting other initiatives around pressure ulcers, patient falls, and colon and hysterectomy-associated surgical site infection. So we also look at this by unit. Okay, back to our heat maps. This is kind of an abridged version of a heat map that looks at certain infections and serious safety events like falls, med errors, and other patient harm events by unit. Okay, again, this allows us to monitor this and reach out to those unit leaders. Okay, reach out to the physicians that frequent those units to get teams together to look at this. An example of this is in the neonatal ICU. You may look at C. diff, all right? In SICU, we might look across there and see we need some areas of improvement. Children's 300 and 400, through the last year, there was 6 collapses. Okay, so work with solutions for patient safety. Of course, we have good work going on there, but that intensifies it when you see this type of information as well. I will mention, I remember I mentioned that quality oversight committee. All this data is shown there on a monthly basis, and on a quarterly basis, all this information goes up to the board of trustees. So we have good transparency around this, and they're also very aware of how we run our quality improvement projects. One of the main tools we use and how we show progress to senior leadership around some of these projects is through the use of a key driver diagram. Okay, this is for the catheter-associated UTI reduction project. On the left, you'll see our SMART aim. We want CAUTI incidents to be maintained at 0 for the rest of calendar year 2023. Over the last 8 months, we've had no more than 1 a month. It's been a mix of 0s and 1s. We've actually had a centerline shift down in our performance statistically, so it's showing fruit there. Each of the key drivers is an area of emphasis in the process where we think we need to strengthen. Rounding, e-chart order processes for Foley's, lab culture management, apparent cause analyses or huddles when CAUTIs occur so we can learn from the incident, and so forth. On the right is the set of interventions. If it's coded in green, okay, that's something that has been accomplished, okay? It's in the sustain mode. If it's in yellow, it's currently underway. And red is sort of the parking lot. These are lower level interventions that we will start in the future, but have not yet approached, okay? So we stage these interventions very deliberately and do PDSA cycles, in a deliberate fashion. So if a PDSA cycle works and we implement it, we know that it had an effect on CAUTI reduction. And we do that until we get down to the main overall goal or aim, which would be 0. So as you can imagine, each one of these interventions takes a lot of work. So you don't want to do a lot of this at the same time, but it also allows us to get a lot of change in a short period of time. Also, here's one for the colon SSI reduction. Dr. Dart, Dr. Stanley are very involved in this, all right? So we have good physician leader support. Again, same idea around the key driver diagram. This is the diagram we start every meeting with. Okay, where are we on each intervention? Do we have data supporting the PDSA cycles in each of these interventions? And we plan the rollout of future interventions in these meetings. And it really adds a lot to the meeting and makes it very efficient. A lot of these meetings only last about a half an hour. So we get updates on the interventions and we problem solve if we're not getting good performance. Here's also one we started a good while back for fall reduction. There's changes to fall risk assessments. There's a lot of education around fall reduction. Of course, for the reduction of falls, there's a bundle, okay, that we need to follow. And then do we have the right equipment in place to prevent falls? So you see how these work. We also have one for pressure injury. So as you can see, all of our major hospital-acquired conditions, again, these are in with Leapfrog. These are the major hospital-acquired conditions that are associated with CMS penalty structures. We want to reduce penalties. On and on. We have one of these intervention types or programs for each area of interest. Here's an example of the pressure injury rate over time. This is a statistical process control chart, another way in which we use data to look at decisions. As you notice, from January 21 to about June of 22, we had a lot of variability, up and down, sawtooth sort of graph, if you will, where we weren't getting a lot of consistent reduction in pressure injuries. And these are stage 3, 4 non-stageable, so your higher degree of severity for pressure injuries. Starting in July of 22, there was a concerted effort, of course, around this. We were coming out of COVID. We were getting a lot more stability in how we did nursing education, et cetera. And as you can see, we had 8 months in a row leading up into February of 23, and this is still holding true to current, where we had a statistical shift in our performance down, which is good. And you see that in the red on the right side of the graph. Another thing you'll see, a little tidbit on statistical process control, look at the red dotted line on the top. Look what happened. We squeezed the variation. Those are variation limits in your control charts. So as you see, we are at a very high level of variation. That was reduced, okay? As we were getting fewer and fewer pressure injuries, we were more stable over time, which is really an indication that there's good performance improvement happening around pressure injury reduction. One of the big work groups we have, and Mike Bettinger is leading this, as well as many others, but it's around mortality and readmission reduction for the organization. So we're getting into things like coding and documentation for changes in case mix index and things like that. Managing post-hospital, we're looking at the palliative and care and the hospice care programs, as well as navigators. How do we follow up with patients post-discharge? Okay, when I say mortality here, that's mortality up to 30 days after they are discharged from the hospital. So it behooves us that they're going to SNFs, that they're going to long-term care facilities. If they pass there, that affects our mortality. So we want to work with those organizations more to help manage and understand what's happening to the patients post-discharge. So a lot of that type of work is happening through the mortality and readmission reduction group. And again, they have a nice key driver diagram. So hopefully this is a nice, quick snapshot of how we use data and quality and safety to drive decisions. So just as a summary, there's a lot of national benchmarking that occurs at Children's. That's through Solutions for Patient Safety. That's through different programs on the adult side. We give a lot of our data to an organization called Vizient. You probably heard of Vizient. Well, they give us a lot of feedback on how our mortality rates, how our readmission rates, many, many things benchmark to national performance. So everything is benchmarked. And then we use this for programs like CMS, penalty structures. A lot of this information goes to the payers. The payers monitor us on this for commercial payers and Medicare Advantage. And groups like Leapfrog look at all this type of information and give us letter grades. So there's a lot riding on this. But the most important thing is safe and quality care for the patient. So a lot of those interventions, a lot of those projects and programs I showed at the end with the key driver diagrams, a lot of work that goes on to make sure we provide the best care possible. So hopefully seeing some of this data, go and look at it on the internet where I showed you where it's at by campus. If you have time, every Thursday, every first Thursday of the month at noon is the Quality Oversight Committee. We show this data and give updates on these projects. So you'll learn about a lot more about it there. So a lot of data floating, but I think we use it strategically for the organization. Happen to answer any questions today? Rock on. Yes, we have Dr. Bennett on the mic. Dr. Bennett.
You know? Okay,
There we
so
go.
thanks for the overview, because I think connecting the dots between what we do, the measures, the initiatives that are underway at Erlanger can be a little bit challenging to know about. And I don't know how many times folks go onto the intranet site to look at quality data. It's probably not something that you plug into your everyday activities. I was curious about, with all of these parts going on and with the deep involvement of learners in all of these processes, how do learners get more engaged and involved, within some of the work groups, perhaps some of the organized efforts that might be going on in any of these given units to target some of those improvement opportunities that you described?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Thanks, Dr. Bennett. Three things, really. The first is uh, one, like you said, get involved with current projects. Uh, that's simply reaching out to me, reaching out to Dr. Bennett. There's a whole portfolio of things to get involved in. And we're always looking for physician sort of involvement on those. That's a key part that we always strive for. So that's one part. The second part is education, resident, fellow education, faculty education around quality improvement methods. So that's another piece. We always want to, one, have good involvement with educational opportunities like QI workshops and things like that. Out of that spawns specific smaller projects on what you can be involved in. And actually, myself and my team and Dr. Bennett, of course, would always be available to coach projects along the way, as simple or as complex as they may be. So we have the education, we have looking at opportunities as well. The third part is looking for opportunities to be involved with safety huddles on the units. Each unit, I've been rounding on the units, and a lot of them are getting safety huddle boards, whiteboards in the hallways that contain top 5 problem lists, look backs, and current things going on that may be barriers for the day. There's some data on these boards now, so how we can think about ways we can enhance that, make those boards meaningful, be involved in those types of safety huddles, promote those safety huddles. If there's not one in areas where you work, maybe be involved in getting those jump started. Very important that we transparently do that at the unit level to begin with. So any help there driving that with nursing is very much appreciated as well.
Who has any questions or comments? I'll bring the microphone to you so that the World Wide Web can enjoy your voice. Anybody? Anyone? Okay. One just final comment, maybe. The visibility of these data has never been better, and it's just improving from here. So using what's available on the website not only kind of make you aware of where things might be going well, it might also resonate with your own practice. So if you're seeing concerns, or if you feel concerned about something, and you can look at kind of how that particular unit is performing against certain goals, it might give you some insights about where there's opportunities. I want to really emphasize that with so much change in healthcare and healthcare practice all around us, these kinds of things are going to be happening wherever we go to practice next. So whether we stay at Erlanger or we go on to another health system or private practice environment, whatever, this is a reality now of practice that you have to demonstrate value. You have to demonstrate through your measures that you're doing what you promised. And that's going to not only impact patient care, it's also going to impact your relationship with your payers in terms of how well you're going to be paid for what you do or what your practice does. So it's really a powerful set of ideas and something that you guys, I think at this point in your careers, can become more acquainted with, so that as you move on to that next phase, hopefully you'll have those dots connected in your head and an opportunity to work within whatever team structures that environment has to be a part of the solution. So thank you all for being here, and for those of you out there on the Zoom version of this, or later going to be looking at the recording. Slow down. Don't put it on 2.0 or 3.0 speed, and really think for a second about what all this means, because we need your intelligence. We need your experience. We need you to be involved if we're going to accelerate the improvements that Dr. Campbell has shown us. So, hey, and we got a B on Leapfrog. Let's go get our A. That's doable.
Yep.
And thank you all for being here.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Dr.
everybody.
Campbell.
Thank you.